Hello, good to see you. Great to be here. Outside, just about to give you another Gotomy update. Oh, look, I've got the sun. Isn't that pretty? I'll show you more in a minute. But if you haven't joined me in this space before, whether you're joining live on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube, I always start outside, unless it's pouring with rain, and show you a bit of the garden because this is a Facebook Live and it takes a little time for it to come up on my feed and it takes a little time for my blessed husband to share it for me through the various groups. And so I like to do a bit of a garden ramble and show you what's going on out here while we wait for that to happen. So, actually the best thing about the garden right now is the sound. Can you hear it? I love the crickets. Hi, Mike. I think it's crickets. I don't know. And there are flutterbys, so I should turn the camera around. Maybe I won't talk so much. I'll just show you some things and you can enjoy the sounds that I'm enjoying. Turn the camera around. I thought I had. Here we go. So, just walking here through the lily bed because it needs weeding. And there are a few late dahlias. Here's a nice fresh one. This one's really bright. And look, we've got a flutterby. We had one last week too. It's just very still out here today and I'm enjoying that. Yeah, I thought it would run away, but you know, there it is. And look at the autumn crocus over there. Let me show you the autumn crocus. It's beautiful being able to show you the autumn crocus wide open and glorious. Try to get my shadow out of the way. Aren't they fabulous? When I did my lives in the morning, I never got to show them to you like this because it was always the morning. And now they're in full sun and they're wide open and they're glorious. It's actually not as many of them as I was expecting this year. I think I might need to put some food in this bed. I think they might have used it all up. I still love these. Just look at the fractal pattern. Just enjoying this, the quiet, the insects, the sunshine. I'll show you the golden calendula, which I also enjoy so much. These flowers are edible. Pick them and pull the petals out and you can throw them in a salad and eat them. And they're very good for you. They're full of lutein, which is, amongst other things, helpful for your eyes. So, very bright, very beautiful. And then, of course, they make a lovely contrast with the autumn crocus. Hello, beautiful beings. I can see you coming on. I got to come back here. They won't be the same next week. Look at these. Aren't they fab? Yeah, the succulent, that's a sedum, and there's lots and lots of them, but those are the ones I've had them for decades. It's great to see you popping on, folks. I hope you enjoy this. We'll be inside soon, but just waiting for the live to wake up and showing you the flowers outside. And you can see, now I can't go over there because the Wi-Fi drops off, but I'll show you. Hi, Shamara. It's great to see you. And look at this. I love this. I've got to show you the colour. Look, this is a fuchsia with orange centres, not the normal pink and purple jobbies. And the leaves, I just love the foliage. I love the whole plant. Really grateful that I have it. And look, these massive flower heads have survived because I staked them. That was necessary. But this is compassion, and it's going to be lovely. All these roses are going to come out, and we have little roses here, and I love the apricot colour of them, and they contrast beautifully with the fuchsia. And finally, because we've had some rain, now all of a sudden the pink Japanese anemones are getting abundant and beautiful. And last but not least, we have some fresh fuchsia blossoms here too. Two kinds of fuchsia. So I'll just show you the inside of this one. And then we'll go inside. And there we go. We'll go inside, especially since there's an aeroplane coming over now. And I'll tell you what's been going on with God of me. Because I've had another productive morning. Sitting in front of my computer creating the thing that I pretty much feel I was born to do. Apart from live a decent life for myself, which actually is something that we're all born to do, is to have an experience here and to live and to grow in whatever environment we have created or chosen for ourselves. So here I am. Now, inside where it's quiet and the aeroplanes don't keep scudding over. Well, they don't scud, they fly, but they're a little bit low and they're noisy. So, inside, excuse me, need a timer so I don't just rev it on forever. So, what did I write today? Last week was pretty cool because I had a milestone. I got to something that I kind of thought I'd never get to, and I actually last week started properly digging into and explaining emotional addiction. I mean, what is that? Really? What's the deal with emotional addiction? Emotional addiction is the fact that our bodies, hi Brian, good to see ya. Our bodies can actually get addicted to feeling bad. Now, you know, me in my mind, I wanted to feel good for so many years. Really. I mean, before that, I just thought that how I felt was normal, but it wasn't. It wasn't actually normal at all. It was really abnormal to feel mildly to moderately fearful and anxious all the time and not know that I felt that. To feel frustrated and blocked and utterly powerless all the time. Hi, Tristan! It was just normal to me, right? I was so used to feeling these ways that I did not know I was feeling them. And I think we miss that. I think we just get so used to thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking the way we feel and think that we don't even notice we're doing it because it's become habitual. We're wired in our brain and our body to feel and think a certain way. And we just think, this is who I am. You know, I'm a fearful person. I'm an anxious person. I'm a perfectionist. I'm whatever. But actually, no, it's not. It's just a habit. It's something that we have decided is true about ourselves. And we've probably had many experiences that will say, well, but there's evidence. This is why I say I'm like this. And look at all these things that have gone on in my life and that are still happening in my life. And this is just who I am. You know, I'm a fearful person. I'm a shy person. I'm an angry person. Whatever it is you find yourself saying or thinking about yourself. It isn't actually what or who you are at all. But you think it is, and it's gotten so normal and so used and so ordinary for you that you never considered that it could be any different. Now, what happens, and I'm speaking about me now, what happens when you think and feel and feel and think and think and feel the same way for probably 50 years, really, some of the things that I'm changing now, is that your body on a chemical level gets really, really used to feeling like that. And there's a concept that I have avoided talking about in my writing for the God of Me website to date. God of Me, by the way, is a website that is to help people understand this stuff really simply. You know, I kind of have the power of ignorance because I've studied the model of transformation that I have learned and I apply every day from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I love it, and it's awesome, and I have incredible experiences in the practice that I do, and I'm so grateful for it because I know exactly who I would be without doing this work every day. And I did not like being that person, and I don't like where that person was heading. That person was getting sick, and that person was really pretty miserable, and so it's changed my life. And the thing that's again changed my life is realizing that even though for many people this information and the practice of it and everything is quite accessible, and I'm not talking about going to one of the events, which can be a big drama because you've got to fly somewhere and pay for the thing and whatever. I mean getting the information and doing the work and changing. Many people can access that because really all you need is a credit card and a little bit of cash. Or you can walk into a bookshop or a library, but if you want the sound recordings, sooner or later you're going to have to pay for those. And the problem is there are a lot of people around the world who do not have a bank account, never mind any money, forget about a credit card.
because they don't have identification papers because they're really poor. And somehow I have this brainchild that I want to get this information to them. And I want this information to be available to lots of other people too, but I reason that if I can make it accessible to them, it's going to be accessible to many others. As in, if I can make it understandable for somebody who's living in a mud hut in Africa, then the chances are that someone who's living on the street in Europe will be able to understand it too, because they will actually still have more education, more understanding of things than someone who's living in a mud hut in Africa, right? So it's not about the lowest common denominator, because everybody understands certain things about being alive and being human, but I have to put things in those terms, at least when I start. Because you got to start, you got to build a foundation, then you can build on that, you can add more information. So I've been doing this for a little while, so I'm unpacking at the moment. I'm really explaining why is it so hard to change. And I've had the experience myself many times before I understood why it's so damned hard to change, of, the positive thinking people. Oh, just think positively. And you do the affirmations, and Louise Hay, bless her, because she was the first person in her little blue book, which my big sister gave to me many years ago, and I read it and it made sense. But when I started trying to do that, the kickback inside me was so strong. It was like, nah, nah, it didn't work. And I didn't understand why. And for a long time, I didn't understand, when I tried to change my feelings, why it felt so damned awful. And it did. It was like, I didn't even try really hard because it felt so bad. It was like, no, this is awful. This doesn't work. And I didn't understand why it felt so awful and why it was so hard and why I couldn't change. I just didn't understand. And then, in 2019, and actually late 2018, a friend of mine connected me with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I started to learn the science. And a year or two or three later, because I repeated it, and I listened and I thought and I read and and I started, it's like the penny started to drop. It took me a while. Oh, my body is actually, it's like, we've talked before about, we have a conscious thinking creative brain, and we have an emotional brain that's in the middle of our head, and then we have the unconscious, the habit brain, the one that's at the back of our head. So we have the walnut, the cerebellum, the wrinkly one, the thing that's on the outside, and then inside there's a chemical brain that makes lots of chemicals and runs our body for us. And then there's a habitual brain, which does all the things that we've memorized, like walking and talking and eating and breathing, and it manages all that for us. And the brainstem does that sort of stuff too. So all of that, who we constantly are thinking and feeling and being, it all gets memorized in there. And I know I've lost my little thought that I was at. But you got to change. That's right. The conscious mind, the part of you that's thinking, the part of you that's listening to me, the part of you that's digesting this information right now, that's only 5% of you. The other 95% of who a person is, like the wiring in their brain and the chemistry in their body and everything else, is unconscious or subconscious. Which means when you're listening to me, or you're reading a book, or you're playing with your kids, or or working, or whatever it is, that 95% of you is running the show. And what does it think and feel and do all day long that you programmed it to do, just by being so, like walking and talking and all those habits, right? We think that's a good habit. You don't have to learn to walk and talk and breathe and eat and everything every day. You learned that before you were 2, and now it's done. That's great. But what if you learn to be habitually negative, or habitually fearful, anxious, or habitually sad, and you didn't even know, because it's just normal. It's just like walking and talking and eating and everything else you do. Those things are just as habitual, and they're just as hardwired in our brains and our body, and that's 95% of who we are. And what I finally understood is that the 5% of me that's conscious, that's saying, I really want to feel differently. I don't like feeling sort of mildly scared all the time. I don't like feeling like I just cannot make money? Are you joking? I'm always just floating around, surviving, but there's never anything extra for what I want. Oh my God, that was such a story. It was such a frustration. I lived that for 20, who knows how many, 40 years. I don't, it's like it's irrelevant, but it was just who I was. That was just as habitual as walking. It's just as habitual as complaining is for some people. There's the person I know, I walk up to this guy, he might say one thing to me and he's complaining. That's it. That's all he does is complain. But he doesn't know. He just thinks it's normal. It's just normal to be miserable or normal to be angry. And the thing about whatever it is that we most normally think and feel and do and behave like and all of that is it's memorized. We're busy doing other things. It's just like walking and talking and eating and cleaning our bodies and going to sleep and getting up and everything else that we just know how to do. We don't think about it. We don't realize that we are being miserable all day long or whatever it is. We just do that because we think it's normal. It's like walking. And so the 5% of me that's conscious has a really, really, really hard time changing that 95% of me that's subconscious or unconscious because it didn't know how. I didn't have a clue how to change. And the reason why that is so hard and why it felt so awful when I was experimenting with affirmations and all that stuff is because if you remember last week I talked about the fact that when we think and feel and think and feel and think and feel and we have all these peptides of the same chemical, because every time we feel, every time we think, we make a chemical in our brain, and that chemical has a downward causation, as a cascade into our body, which gives us a feeling in our body that's just the same as what we were thinking. So if we think a fearful thought, our body feels fearful. And if you keep doing that and doing that and doing it and doing it and doing that, that chemical has to dock into a cell, onto a receptor in a cell, and once it gets into the receptor, it goes into the cell DNA and it signals the DNA to produce a protein, and the proteins are what our body uses to make itself run, right? Every cell in our body except for a red blood cell makes proteins from the DNA that's in the nucleus. And our body just runs on proteins, and without proteins we're screwed. And if our DNA makes bad proteins, or if we hit our receptors so hard for so long that they get tired and they can no longer receive the peptides that send the signal into the cell to make the proteins, now we've got a problem. And that's what happens with type 2 diabetes, by the way. The person, for whatever reason, and there can be all kinds of reason, has elevated blood sugar for so long that the receptors on the cells that the insulin molecule uses to get the glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cell, they just get tired. Or the inside of the cell stops working, like the DNA starts to malfunction, or both. I looked it up a little bit. There's several ways that a person can get type 2 diabetes. It depends on which part of the chemical mechanism's broken down. But the point is that it only happens because the mechanism gets hammered. And the body adapts because the cell just says, I can't keep up with the demand. This is just too hard. I have to change something so that the next time, because the cells divide, cells are dying all the time, and healthy cells divide to replace the ones that are dying. And so the healthy cells are saying, well, look, I'm feeling really tired. There's just too much of this glucose just constantly at me all the time. I'm going to have fewer receptors for insulin molecules next time. I just don't, it's like that music is loud, let me put on headsets, put on noise cancelling headphones, so now I won't even hear the noise. Or the light's too bright, okay, I'm just going to put on a blindfold so I don't see it. That's what happens at a cellular level. It stops paying attention because it just gets overwhelmed. That's one example. So I talked a lot about that for the last few weeks. But the thing is that eventually our cells change. They adapt to the fact that we have, for me, high levels of fear chemicals all the time, elevated levels of fear chemicals all the time. And I just thought it was normal to feel fearful and completely disempowered and, whatever. I did that for 30, 40, 50 years. And then one day I decided I wanted to change. Now what happens if you've been living at a certain level of fear or anger or judgment or criticism or self-hatred or guilt or oh poor me, I'm a victim, whatever, for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then, so you've had high levels of all of those chemicals running around in your body, and then suddenly you decide, hey, I really need to stop this. It's not very good. I don't like it. Not actually good for my body, but never mind that. I want to feel different now. And so your cells, which have changed to accommodate the fact that whatever you're used to normally feeling, those levels of chemicals are really high, or higher than they should be, if you like. Well, whatever normal should be, they're higher than normal because, maybe you had a bad experience and you just got scared and then you stayed scared. I mean, that's PTSD. But the cells adapt to whatever becomes normal. And if he was normal and then it goes up, or down, but let's say it goes up, and it stays up for 30, 40, 50 years. And now you say, but I don't want to stay at that elevated level of fear. I want to do some work to stop feeling so afraid, and I want to feel more at ease in the world. I want to feel more supported. I want to feel safer. And you start creating those feelings. What happens? The levels of those chemicals in your blood drop down. And now, just like a drug addict, your body, the cells in your body start to crave the feelings of fear or whatever it is that you've been feeling. They say, hang on a minute, 50 years ago, I changed my cell structure and function for you. We've been getting along like this really fine. And now, I still need those chemicals, but I can only get them into my cell and do what I need to do with them if there's this level around. It's got to be at this high level. You've dropped it down. I need you to push it up again. And the cells start sending these messages up to the brain. They say, hey, brain, we need you to think that fearful thought now because I need a dose of those chemicals. So just fire that thought off randomly out of nowhere because I need those chemicals. And I've had this happen. I have had days when I felt like I was going mad because the thoughts that my body was saying exactly that. I need those feelings. Send me those feelings. Think this thought, think this thought, think this thought. Oh no, you're not going to think that one, think that one, think that one, think that one, think that one. And it was incessant. And it was really, really hard. Why? Because my body was withdrawing from the chemical level up here, and it had to actually change its genetic expression, like the proteins in the DNA weren't getting expressed so much all the time, so the receptors had to go, shit, we better wake up, we better become more sensitive to those chemicals because the chemical levels dropped. We actually have to pay more attention, but there's a time lag between, oh gee, you've dropped your levels, I want this, I need this, and I mean, it's withdrawal. And that was why when I wanted to do affirmations when I was in my 20s, it didn't work. Because I didn't understand that my body was already chemically addicted to my bad feelings. And so as soon as I went to have a different feeling, to think a different thought, I have had my body fight me just when I wanted to think a different thought. Hi, Marilyn! Because the thought was so unfamiliar and made such different chemicals that my body said, oh, no. I want to feel this kind of chemistry, not that kind of chemistry. That's unfamiliar to me. Give me what I know. And I'm going to scream at you to try really hard to make you give me what I know and what's familiar to me. And our bodies do this. They're not our enemy. They just like things to stay the same. It's called homeostasis. This is a thing I'm going to have to explain at some stage. Not going there yet. It's sort of a big, scary, ugly word. But really, our bodies like everything to stay the same. It likes a certain temperature. It likes a certain amount of water. It likes a certain amount of this. It likes a certain amount of that. It likes a certain amount of chemicals that it's used to. And when you go changing that because you say, I've been afraid all this time and now I'm going to change that. I'm going to start feeling safe. It says, oh, no, you don't. My receptors won't work unless you're up here feeling scared. And your body actually has to be trained to have receptors that work when you're down here feeling safe. That is why it's so freaking hard to change. Because sometimes people have a really powerful positive experience and they change in a moment. I mean, like a near-death experience can do that. It can change someone's awareness of themselves and their life and everything so much that they come out of it and their chemistry just changes because it's been so powerful. It's overwritten all of the old programming, and that happens, right? But I didn't happen to have that happen. I've had to go through the process of unpicking how deeply and how well I trained my body to be miserable. And the chemical withdrawal, particularly because I've been changing really deep stuff in the last couple of months, traumas and unconscious things and stuff I didn't even know was there because it was just who I was. It's been really hard because I've gone through the withdrawals and I thought I was going mad. It's chaos because the brain has to make different connections to think a different thought and feel a different feeling, and it has to prune the old ones apart. The body has to downregulate some receptors and upregulate others. It has to downregulate some genes and upregulate others. It's chaotic. It hurts. It's horrible sometimes. This is why. And so I've been unpicking this and unpacking it in my writing today. So I nearly forgot to say, this is what I've been writing about today. So there's a fight between the body and the mind because the body wants to stay the same and the mind wants to change. And you got to get the two in agreement. And how the hell do you do that? I didn't know. I do know now. Now there is something, so that's the writing update. There is something exciting that happened yesterday. And I wrote a little patron-only post to my patrons about this. But I'm going to talk about it a bit, but they're going to get to hear the thing, and that's my gift to them. I saw a post on Facebook yesterday, and I actually took a look and thought, that person's feeling like this and this and this, and then I thought, I know this is what I'm creating is about. And there's going to be tools, there's going to be experiences, there's all these words and there'll be pictures, but I also want there to be little exercises to do, to bring it to life, to make it real. What's the point in learning it if you don't know how to do it, right? I want to teach people how to do it. That's the whole point. So I decided, because I had some time yesterday in the morning, I thought, fine, I'm just going to pick up my phone, sit down and record a process. And I did, and I sort of thought, I'll try to go for 10 minutes. No, it was about 20. But I understand that, my awareness of what that person was going through and knowing what my patrons are going through and what I think would be helpful to them. Hi, Maureen. Good to see you. I wanted to do something that I thought, okay, well, if they're going to make the time and they want to do this, then it should... I didn't really hear. I wasn't looking at the clock. I was just listening. I was just going through a process. And the process really is a process to change how you feel. And it's all about, I decided to just base it around heart coherence because that's very simple. I haven't explained it yet, but it's something that anyone can do. And I'm going to record a little introduction to say, this is why you are doing this. This is why I give you these cues. That's what it's about. So I'm putting that together for my patrons now. And the thing that I realized was, I don't have to wait until all the words are written before I just start doing things. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I can just pick up my phone, do a recording, and try it out. I've always said that my patrons are going to be my guinea pigs, and they were going to get to try out the tools. I mean, guinea pigs sounds bad, but I want people to come on this journey with me and help me find out what works. Because I've got to develop a tool set, and I know it's there. I can feel it in me. And every time I think about it, there's another piece of the puzzle comes into my mind. I think, oh, yes, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. But suddenly here I am just creating something for my patrons because I think, I see a need, I see something that I could do that is useful. I had this time, I did it. So I've got this audio file. There's a sound that I want to put in behind it, and I need to talk to the man who owns that sound to find out how to get a license to use it, because I want to be legal, I want to be legit, and I don't want to rip anybody off, but that's coming. So that's my way of saying, if you're interested in this, if you want to learn how to change your feelings, that's what God of Me is about. And people who feel that they would like to be a little more involved in the journey and support the process and be a patron, it's only $5 a month. If you can do that, you're going to get all of those things before anybody else does. And I'm looking forward to that part of it. it's going to be exciting. So my time is up. I have spoken for half an hour, which is, I think, no, that's enough. Thank you so much for joining with me. I really enjoy letting you know what I've been doing and what's coming. I hope you'll share and like and find this useful. And if you've got questions, please do ask, because I love to answer questions. So, much love, and I'll see you in a week with another update. Big love. Bye-bye.